Welcome to Project Comedy, a podcast by and for military veterans doing stand-up comedy, turning military banter into quality stand-up comedy acts. We might be veterans, but our comedy aims to get everybody laughing. One of the most common comments we get from people thinking about getting into stand-up comedy is that they're worried that their sense of humour is probably inappropriate for a paying audience. And we all know what service and veterans humour is like. They often ask us where the line is, and how do we measure where that line is? That sometimes moves into questions about what we can't joke about for woke or political reasons. Regular listeners to the podcast will know that Project Comedy has a pretty simple rule about this. You can joke about anything. It's how you tell the joke. Forget politics and progressive agendas. Look at what the joke actually does. A great way to examine your material is to use punching up and punching down models. Punching up is good, punching down is bad. So, how does that work? And how do you apply it to your material? As usual, I'm joined by Gabriel Murphy. Punching is his middle name. Just look at the damage he's inflicted when he did MMA. Jamie Johnson, the man with the best coming up gag we know of on the circuit. Sean Morris, the man that fails to put the order into post-traumatic stress disorder. And I'm Jay Saunders. I have so many ups and downs, I make bipolar look like a Victorian tea party. Plus, to add a little bit of spice to the episode, we're starting a new feature to the podcast. We're going to close off with a roast battle. This week, we have Gabe versus Sean, almost a father and son of darkness affair. And Jamie and I get to judge who wins the battle. Good evening, gents. How the fuck are you?
Good evening. I'm grand.
I'm not so bad, actually. I'm not so bad.
And one day we might actually video record this. People have got no idea how I got through that intro because, bless Gabe, he decided he was going to start with punching down and showing me his intimate parts. So I was trying to get through the intro. So thank you so much for that, mate. That's my bonus for this episode.
It's because you said material.
I did not show you my intimate parts. They were very public.
So in this one, we're talking punching up and punching down. Who wants to take us through what that means to the uninitiated?
I believe, with me being as politically correct as I am, I think
yes, of course,
I should run with it. So my understanding of punching up and punching down is that punching up is perfectly acceptable because they fucking deserve it. And punching down is basically whilst making lewd and fun comments of people who or of groups that are kind of under the cosh at the minute.
Yeah.
It's done in a funny way as opposed to just people who just can't defend themselves at all.
Mm-hmm. It's a tiny little measure, isn't it? Because so many people will turn around to us and go, you can't be sexist, you can't be racist, all that sort of stuff. Well, actually, you can joke about gender and you can talk about those sort of issues. It's what's the intent of the joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's that point of, if somebody can take the joke, that's brilliant. Punching up, people in power, people that have more rights than most people, you punch up, take the piss out of them. That's the entire point of political satire. You can take the piss out of politicians because they got more power over us. But why are you going to be sexist? Actually, women do have a problem in the workplace. They do still fight these sort of things. So why are you conforming to that stereotype? If the intent of a joke is to hurt somebody, that's punching down.
Yeah.
Would that be a fair way to say that's what punching down is?
It's probably a better way of saying.
But equally, it doesn't stop you from telling a joke, though, does it? It's literally have a look at the joke and see if there is a way to bring it into a modern era where you're not punching down on, I hate to use the term, but an oppressed minority or people that don't have as much voice as other people around you. This is a classic episode, isn't it? We've got, 4 white males talking about punching up and punching down, but it doesn't stop you from being a decent human being, having a bit of...
Hey, hang on. According to the commitments, we're the Black Sea Europe, so You can fuck right off.
You bloody Irishman, you bloody Irishman.
I was going to say for this episode, I clearly identify as an Apache gunship, so address me as such.
Hi, fuck, damn Gabe.
Do you know what? Yeah, and I bet we'll come to that because we've made a list. We'll have a look at some things and go, right, when you're looking at these particular elements, what would be a good punching up gag? What would be but what would you avoid on punching down? Who wants to take one of those subjects and start off? Because you've had a
I
look
can
at the
do
list.
it.
Go for it, big boy.
See, everyone thinks that we like to take the piss out of Rishi Sunak because he's a cunt.
Mm-hmm.
Punch up.
Yep.
It's not. It's because he's Asian. Punch down.
Yep. Have you ever seen Nish Kumar's podcast? He does a political podcast.
A little bit.
I've not seen it. I've heard it.
He also releases it on YouTube as well as it being an audio one. And he was doing a big thing about Rishi fairly recently, going, dreams were ignited for so many Asian people in the country. We've ended up with our first of ever Asian prime minister. Absolutely stunning, fantastic. He's just proven to be an absolute tosspot. So Rishi going down that line, that's one thing. I think we're entitled to do that. Going, it wasn't excited to see that, but bloody hell, we could turn it around going, but he's ended up being whiter than the biggest racist white cunt we've ever seen. Rwanda flights, stopping the boats, what have you. Now that's going back to punching up. We're not punching against his color or the origins of his family. We're punching up to his power over the people around. That's how you differentiate those two, isn't it?
Didn't he allegedly punch down in PMQs recently?
Yeah. Should we save that for when we actually start talking? Because I think one we'll have to talk about, because I know it's, especially in the veterans community, people can get really, really heightened when we start talking about trans issues. So should we just hold that for a second? Because I think there's something really important we need to say about it. Sorry, Gabe, what were you saying, mate?
A mate of mine I used to know when I was a paramedic, he got approached by the BNP and asked if he would like to join the BNP, and just for shits and giggles, he was like, yeah, sure, I'll crack on. And he was there for a good half an hour trying to recruit him. And he says, Grand, so can I take your name? He goes, yeah, it's David Moatamedi.
Oh, beautiful.
The fellow was half,
Beautiful.
I think he was Iranian or Iraqi.
Right.
Half, either way.
Yeah.
Is this over the phone, like Gabe?
Sorry?
Is this over the phone?
No, face to face. Dav,
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Dav, he didn't overly look Asian. He kind of looked like a little bit like the bad fella off Stingray, with the big thick eyebrows.
Just looked like one of his family members owns a spray tanning company.
No, but even then, he wasn't like to walk past him. You'd have thought he was just a white fella, but obviously he's mixed race, isn't he? So
I'm going to twist the story here because obviously we're white fellas. Okay, Gabe's Irish. That's sort of like a different break, and it's a point I want to come back to in a minute.
Hang on, Irish people not white?
No. But you're still European. We're no longer allowed to call ourselves European now. Thanks very much, the Tories.
Yeah.
But I remember an absolute amazing. I'm twisting this story and explaining why I'm twisting the story. One of my mates from university, Nigerian descent, black as black can be, absolutely fantastic. We had a great relationship. We were out for a couple of beers one night, and I said to him, look, we've often spoke about race because I'd seen him subject to racism and what have you. And I said to him, is there any advantage to being a black man in the UK? He says, only one. Do you want to see it? I said, yeah, fair enough, mate. And just as we're walking through the pub, he sees this guy and goes, Dave, I haven't seen you in fucking years. How are you keeping? And this bloke goes, beg your pardon? It's Dave, we used to go to secondary school together. Sorry, I'm not Dave. I'm a different bloke. Oh, I'm so sorry. And as he wanders away, he goes, "You white fellas all look the same to me." I have twisted that story to put myself in the first person. I didn't actually witness that. He told me that. And that's what we do as a comedian. You twist it so you can bring the relevance and bring the connection. But he told me that he had actually done it in a nightclub one night when this guy had been toxically racist to him. It just makes it into a better gag. But that's a great punching up joke.
A genuine thing that happened to me. I was working on a construction site, and like it was all about the time where Brexit had happened and it was coming into fruition and stuff like that. A load of these fellas, because I was working this like lift thing called a hoist, and a load of the fellas would come in and just go, all these fucking Europeans coming around taking our jobs and all this. It was like, mate, you know I'm Irish, don't you? It was like, yeah, and all these fucking Europeans coming around taking our job. You know, Ireland is in Europe.
Yeah.
The UK's in Europe. It's just not part of the union.
Hey, loads of them were just going.
We didn't just disconnect the Wi-Fi and
we
sail
don't-
off into the Atlantic.
But there were loads of them were like that. Oh yeah, but we don't mean like Irish people. We just mean everyone else who just can't speak British. It's just like,
So they're
you're
still
not
referring to
even
you then.
saying the correct words anymore. It was ridiculous.
No, so you've got the punching down is kind of where you want to pick on, or well, where you don't want to pick on people that are under the protected characteristics, or essentially what in the UK would constitute a hate crime.
Yeah, that's a good, nice starting point, isn't it?
So annoying because they're the funniest things.
No. But this is the point, though. You can still tell jokes about it, but this is what we're going into. It's sort of like we're performers, which means we're going to be in the public arena. We're going to be saying stuff. And there is a law about hate crimes and hate speech. If you understand what those protected categories are, then you're just going to be making sure that you're punching up. You can still tell quality gags about it, but you're going to be doing it in a punching up way rather than punching down, aren't you? That's the only reason we're going to those protected categories, isn't it?
Yeah, as long as you're keeping the funny going without the hurt.
So let's go through those. The CPS, so Crown Prosecution Service, declares that there are 5 protected categories. So these are the 5 things that could get you into trouble if you did it the wrong way in terms of a hate crime. And they are race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, and transgender identity. I bet so many people are thinking veterans. That means they've lost every one of their gags, because it's the 5 things they automatically assume that servicemen and veterans hate in every single way. But it couldn't be further than the truth, because we've always worked with people that fit into one of those categories, haven't we?
Or more than one.
Yeah.
To be fair, I hate lesbians because they take all the fit women.
Do you know what? When I was a young single man at the very beginning of my career, I spent a bit of time with it's before I did my main job with them, but I spent a bit of time around the Royal Signals, and they had more than their fair share of really good-looking girls, but it turned out they were all lesbian, and it really fucking annoyed me. Now that is punching up. That's a great punching up joke to end up going in that direction, that you can turn around and take, somebody's sexual orientation and turn it into the positive. Is why do all the lesbians steal the really good looking women? It's really depressing to an old shit like me. That's how you end up playing the gag, so it's working for that group rather than against them, isn't it?
Yeah,
because you're supposed to be a comedian telling jokes. You're not there to basically start maybe a rally that might end up in a very large building.
You're not Trump
in America.
Do you think this is where some comedians get into trouble, or first timers might get into a trouble, that they actually think that stand-up comedy is there for them to get their political views of the world and try and convince other people to start thinking like them? Is that where you run into the problem with this?
Well, I mean, that's my agenda.
Your agenda is to make everybody think like you, Gabe.
Yeah.
So we all need to start MMA, drink more red wine, and just have a fucking good crack.
That's better than what I was going to say.
So what would your agenda be then, Sean?
Oh no, I was saying related to what Gabe. I said oh no, Gabe was going to solve the population crisis by making everyone
Yep.
else want to kill themselves.
I like that.
For number one, there wouldn't be any nonsense because I fucking hate kids. Saying that child murderers would probably be up.
You've enabled us to segue into something that's very important to us, because I got turned away from a gig because of this once. We're quite unique acts in the fact that we've all suffered trauma and ended up with mental health issues due to military service, etc. And I got cancelled from a gig because they turned around and said, no, your material is too dark and inappropriate for an audience. Because I was talking, because I gag about having PTSD, having gone through suicide attempts and blah, blah. Some people will turn around and say, that's punching down. It sure as hell is not, because anybody that's seen my material, I make light of it and try and make awareness for these kind of issues. But a lot of people will try and get offended on somebody else's behalf. And that's where you can save yourself by thinking, look at my joke, am I punching down? No, I can be self-deprecating and raise awareness. That's different from punching down.
Me and Sean are completely gutted that we're never going to gig in Gosport.
And Gosport is the weaker for not having you, but then again, there's only one gig in Gosport. So, and there can be this assumption as well with a serviceman that I don't know if you boys have ever encountered it in town. I have, unfortunately, when we go to religion. I mean, religious jokes are brilliant. Jamie tells some, Gabe tells some. They're absolutely brilliant. You know, seeing as you're both lapsed Catholics and what have you. But people will automatically assume that we're all going to be anti-Islam, literally because of the theatres of war we've gone into. Yes, we've been into some nasty places, but not 100% of that has been driven because people are Muslim. I would like to think we've got a pretty great tolerance for, or sorry, not tolerance, but an understanding of what is good and what is bad. Some people are great Christians. Some people are wankers. Some people are great Muslims. Some people are fucking wankers. That's where you drive the difference, isn't it?
There is one and only one thing that I am anti. I'm just anti-dickhead.
And that's a fair place to play in it.
Honestly, it's the only thing I'm against. Like anyone can have their own thoughts, their own beliefs, their own shit they have a fucking wank to on the internet. As long as no one gets hurt and it's, you know, deemed legal, I don't give a shit outside of that.
Do you guys think you could write a good Muslim joke?
Definitely.
I'm loving the fear in everybody's eyes.
No, because so the thing is, I'm not gigged yet, so technically it wouldn't be classed as career suicide, but my joke would be the bomb. It's what
I mean, you see, I could go down the terrorist line and say like, it's kind of, you know, the Asians are taking the mantle there. But,
yeah, they've stolen the Irish thunder, haven't they?
Yeah, you know, it's like we had that cornerstone of the market. We were there. That was us. And now everyone's just jumping on the fucking bandwagon and pissing me off. But annoyingly, the only thing that I could ever think of is how weird is it for all these people who do all these, you know, suicide bombs and stuff like that, thinking that they're going to get 40 virgins to go up there and find out that they're gay.
Or even worse, the 40 virgins are all 105 years of age. But there are, I mean, and I think I could do something with it, because turn around and, you know, if you could turn around and say you're going to do a Muslim joke, yes, the room's suddenly going to get nervous. What's the way of punching up? Because I don't have the fucking dedication. I can't clean up my boat twice a day after cooking. How the fuck are you expecting me to have the discipline to pray 5 times a day? They are more dedicated to that shit than I could ever possibly be. There are ways to look at, challenge the stereotype.
To be fair, as a kid, I thought Ramadan was an arcade game.
And that's a lovely joke. That's a lovely Muslim joke that it doesn't cause any harm, does it?
No, I got a couple of Muslim friends. They're all great.
One thing that always confuses me is, like, you know how in Brunei and the United Arab Emirates and stuff like that. The girl has to walk so far behind the guy.
In certain countries, yeah.
How far behind the guy does she have to walk before the guy behind her picks up on the fact that he's walking behind her?
Does that mean Kuwait has the quietest streets ever known to man? Because nobody can step out to the road going, fuck, I'm going to be too close to that woman. Right, missus, we got a 10-minute delay to get to Aldi because there's too many people in front of us.
Hey, who the fuck are you walking with, right? Because I've been waiting 5 years for my missus to catch up.
Do you know what? If we introduced that on Oxford Street, we'd all be able to get from one end to the other so much fucking faster than we currently do.
Well, this is why I love, like, Japan. Like, Japan, everyone walks on the left.
Mm-hmm.
And like loads of things in Japan just wouldn't work here because, I mean, you see a no entry sign and people want to fucking drive down it, let alone walk down it. But like over in Japan, it's like, you walk on the left, you wait till the fucking green man comes on, even if there's no cars.
You don't walk and eat your food.
Yeah, but you don't walk and eat your food.
If you have a cold, wear a face mask.
You've just reminded me of a classic punch up that if you do it too much can become a punch down, and it's very common in British comedy, and that's Americans. You're taking the piss out of Americans now, and then sometimes you'll have an American in your audience. Not all Americans.
Why is that punching down? They deserve it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing this.
A lot of America does, because it is punching up. It is punching up. But be aware that you may have an American in the audience. And I saw a beautiful one when I was doing the Loft at King's, and he was taking the piss out of this American, out of the Americans. And this guy turned around and went, "I'm American." He went, "Go on, mate, have a go back." And he goes, "It wasn't for us, you'd all be speaking German." And without a beat, this comedian turned around and he went, "And if it wasn't for us, you'd be speaking Japanese." And it was just, and he had to go, "Fuck, I wasn't ready for that." And it made him laugh. And it suddenly turned it from a punch down to a punch up in a beautiful little heckle put down.
One of the funniest Americans that I can think of is Gabriel Iglesias.
Absolutely fucking brilliant because of his Mexican extraction.
Did you hear about the time that he gigged over in India?
No, go on.
Yes.
So he's talking about this time where he gigged out in India, and in the front row, someone's laughing really weirdly.
Mm-hmm.
So Marcel gives, he's like, "Mate, I didn't touch this. It's all for you." So so Fluffy comes out and he hears these guys like laughing like that. And apparently,
like a Jimmy Carr wannabe.
It turns out to be some German lads. And at the time, he's going on saying like, Mexicans quite like Indians because, we have all this thing. We like Fanta, you like Fanta.
Mm-hmm.
And then these Germans just jump up and go, "Hey, what do we like?" And he's like, I don't really want to go there. And he's like, "Hey, fat man, what do we like?" And he's like, "Mate, I'm going to be annoyed if you carry on calling me fat man and all that." And then he goes, "Yeah, but what do we like?" And he goes, "All right, I've had enough." The blood of Jews.
Oh fuck! Oh fuck!
And then, and then, ironically, like on the flight home, they get redirected, and they're getting the flight home by Lufthansa.
Oh mate.
And Marcel's there by Fluffy, and the hostess comes down the line and says, "Does anybody want a drink?" And Marcel's like, "Let's go."
I think he's a genius. He is the man that's actually been able to show how you punch up, how you, yeah.
Jay, your internet is like my mum's appreciation for me.
Yeah, he's frozen.
Jay's frozen.
And while we wait for our glorious leaders to come back, here's how you can get involved in Project Comedy.
Would you like to join Project Comedy? The reality is, it couldn't be much simpler. All you have to do is get on the internet and find your way over to the Project Recce website. That's Project, the word Project Recce, as in RECCE.org. O-R-G. Have a look in the upper right hand corner, click on the menu and click on Project Comedy. Scroll down there a bit and you'll find a link that says apply now. That will send an email to one of our ambassadors. If you're even more bored, scroll down a little further and you'll actually see a couple of our ambassadors making tits of themselves on the stand-up comedy stage. Nonetheless, just click on the link, get in contact, and you can be as funny as you want to be.
So, MPMQs, Richie Sunak,
Oh yeah.
punching up or punching down? What the thoughts, guys?
Punching down.
Just to recap for people that may not have been watching PMQs.
And me.
So basically, it's we have a confrontational political system. So on PMQs, it's basically who's going to get the best line in between the leaders of the two main parties. And Rishi Sunak was having a go at Keir Starmer for U-turning on a lot of stuff. And his final, I'm using air quotes because this is an audio podcast. His last joke was saying that Keir Starmer has U-turned his decision on what it takes to be a woman. And at that stage, the young transgender girl that was murdered recently, her mother was...
Yeah, Brianna G.
Yeah. I'll let you guys start then. Punching up or punching down?
Definitely down.
It was trying to make a political point, wasn't it? And it's sort of like...
It's so bad for the people at home. It's so bad. Gabe's walked off.
I did agree with Keir Starmer. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but when he turned around and said, today of all days to do that, this week of all weeks to do that, when Rihanna's mum is in the Commons.
Do you know, the one thing that triggered me the most is that most people have said, like, they've tried to turn this around to Keir.
Mm-hmm.
Saying like, oh, he shouldn't have made such a fuss about it. No, he fucking should have made a fuss about it. Stand up, point out when someone's being a fucking knobhead.
It's that stupid part of remember who our politicians are.
Yeah.
They are there to represent the people of this country. And the mother of a murdered transgender girl was in to talk about the issues that trans kids are going through. And Rishi Sunak thought that was an appropriate joke.
I honestly don't give a shit about like if any one person is in the audience to represent something that has a deep and meaningful thing towards them. Don't joke about it, especially in a fucking politician's forum. If you go to a comedy club, it's different. You can joke about anything. Yeah. But, like, can you imagine, like, if a policeman turned up to like a murderer and just went, killed the room here, didn't I? Like, fuck.
Yeah.
You know, you just wouldn't accept it. And
I suppose this is why it really annoyed me, is the fact that they're having this conversation of why he was right to say that and he's right not to apologize. If any of us had told that joke on a stage, if any professional comedian had told that joke on a stage, people would be calling for them to get cancelled, and maybe rightly.
My one and only criticism of it is Keir should have turned around, looked up at her and said, on behalf of the Prime Minister, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because that would have fucking annihilated them.
And let's flip it on its head. You can tell trans jokes. You can tell trans jokes. Yeah. It's, again, turn it from a punch down to a punch up. I'm trying to write a new set at the moment about how boring I am. And, you know, no wonder I don't have a partner, because I am so fucking boring. So I'm going through the entire list of LGBTQIA to go through it. The instant thing I was thinking about doing for trans was, you know, well, I would toy with the idea of trans, except for two things. One, I don't have the courage to chop me willy off because I like it too much. And two, I can't afford the pay cut. And then what you're doing is turning it into a double layer punch up. Because what you're actually there doing, you're not criticizing somebody for being trans. Actually, it takes a lot of courage to change your identity publicly. And then you're also doing a second punch up to the gender pay gap. That, you know, just because it's trans doesn't mean you can't tell a joke about it. You just do a joke that's in the right fashion.
It's like I'm immensely proud of my daughter because she's absolutely gorgeous. She's dropped down beautiful. However, because she's a lesbian, that's taken away 50% of my fucking Pornhub searches.
For fear that she's performing.
No. Just in case. That's the kind of guy I am, honestly. It's like the whole nonsense thing with Isabel.
You do need to clarify that just before we get cancelled. Please clarify before we get a cancel request. I'm
fully DBS checked. I carry that shit in my back pocket like it's a fucking shield. Like, I'm a decent fella. I'm just hanging around with this 8-year-old in hopes that her mum will give me a blowjob. I'm a nice guy.
What I wanted to chuck into the mix was disability, because
spaz.
Well, that was exactly the one I wanted to go into, mate. Because do you remember? No, this is going back a while, and
it's
this is where
word.
It's that thing about not you have to self-judge this stuff. Don't necessarily automatically listen to the rules given you. I had written this joke about, why do I have my assistant's dog? Simple answer is because I'm disabled. I was talking to the guy that booked me about this particular gig, and I told him the punchline. And the punchline was basically, people often turn around to me and go, well, you don't look disabled. And I turned around and went, well, I'm so glad I don't look like a spastic. Would you like me to go and lick an occasional window? And he went, you can't say that. You can't say spastic. You cannot say spastic. Sorry, that is massively punching down. And it rocked me for a while. But I went, fuck it, I'm going to try it because this is my lived experience. People have treated me that way. People have wanted to do that. Does he take sugar in his tea? So I went out, told the gag. It absolutely landed. The entire room is killing themselves. And this guy came up to me afterwards and went, I stand corrected. You can tell that joke. There was no harm inflicted in it whatsoever. So even this very experienced guy was there going, actually, it's down to your intent and the way you've shaped your gag. That spacker is the wrong word. Retarded is the wrong word. If you're using it to punch down, absolutely, it's the wrong word. But if you use it to punch up, it can be a beautiful defining word.
I think the only other one is like a stereotype scenario. So like Irish people only go for laying roads, drinking beer and fucking women. So
Well, you've got the classic. You know,
You missed out. You missed out the other stereotypes about them being either gypsies or IRA.
or thick. You know, the old Paddy jokes. You know, to our
That's not a
Okay.
stereotype. That's just true. That's
Will
just
you
true.
stop
That's not
punching
stereotype.
down on me?
But this is what we do. We're giving the example. I'm giving the example. I mean, it's giving me an excuse. It's giving me an excuse to say what I really think. But I'm just saying.
But you've got the other beautiful ones as well. Some of them can be funny. You know, the Scottish one about being tight. You know, copper wire was invented about two Scotsmen fighting over a penny.
And them being generally just small and aggressive.
But I think you've got a great way. You could actually write a set about that. If you look at stereotypes and flip it, you could end up with a very, very interesting set.
Well, one of my things is I always say, like, Celts are always kind of related. We all start off as Irish, but when we lose the ability to drink, we become Welsh. And then when we lose our charm, we become Scottish.
Oh no! I've got to do some protest in the back there, because one day we want to perform in Edinburgh, and I'm not letting that just go in unanswered.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm obviously not going to say fucking Edinburgh, am I? Fucking hell.
We all know how Scottish people are made.
I think you're so right, Gabe. If you look at if there's a stereotype about it, challenge it and see if you can have fun with it. Because we can do it in Britain. You know, we are the ultimate fucking racists. We are the ultimate racists because suddenly ginger is a new race. Suddenly where you went to school and who your parents are is something we can discriminate you for.
Your hair color is not a protected characteristic. Go fuck yourself.
No, totally agree. But it's fun to play with this thing. You know, class.
Gingers have no souls and smell of wee. They don't get to complain.
Twiglets and shame.
Because there are stereotypes about class, and that's something we ended up playing a great deal with, you know, when we were in the services, because it's automatically assumed that officers are Ruperts. They all went to public schoolboy places, had the tie, etc., etc. Yet here I am, a Wurzel Gummidge reject, and I was actually a commissioned officer. What a lovely story from when I was at Dartmouth. There was a rather posh guy that I did my basic entry with. And the first time I spoke,
was it you?
Me, posh mate? There's no way I could ever claim that. But the first time I had to do some public speaking.
How many times do you say chap a day?
Several. And yeah, we all had to give a little 5-minute lecture. And there was a very well-to-do, very posh, very straightforward gentleman. And after I finished, he turned around and went, "Oh my God, we're letting the lower classes into Dartmouth." And we just fucking fell apart. I mean, even I found it funny that you can end up playing that. Okay, so hopefully we've ended up telling our listeners what punching up, punching down is. Basically, go and challenge yourself. If you're trying to hurt somebody, it's not a fucking joke. But also, have a look at these areas and go, where can I make a really good joke by punching up rather than punching down? That takes us into a very nice little segue, because this is all about punching down. We're going to finish off the podcast with nothing but punching down. The roast battle between Gabriel Murphy and Sean Morris.
Right, gentlemen. 5 jokes each. Crack on.
Let's roast!
If you don't mind, I'd like to go first.
Sure. You're used to coming first, then it's fine.
If you don't mind, I'd like to go first, because I do feel like if Sean got my comeback, it'd be considered a little bit incestuous.
To be fair, Gabe, you're talking about family. You're so bad at being a dad, you adore your ginger stepchild.
Emotional damage.
You and me both know that's a lie. Sean looks like he'd be the worst person to do cocaine with.
I mean, Gabe, you are the image of toxic masculinity. So much so, your daughter licks Fanny.
Oh!
Sean looks like he'd turn around and say, "My mum died of shame."
Oh man, Gabe, you're so bad at being a soldier. You were more used to the IRA in the British Army.
I like that.
I fucking like that one. That was a good one. Sean looks like he could be a vegan dildo.
Isn't that just a carrot?
I thought it was a zucchini.
Fruity.
Oh, well, Gabe, the thing is about you, I don't think you're going to cut in this comedy market. You're so bad at comedy, Maroon is funnier than you.
Oh, that's dark. That's bad. That's nasty. That's very cruel.
Sean would look more masculine if he lay down on his back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Seeing as this is the last one, I'll finish by saying, Gabe, your retorts are shite. And you've been roasted so bad, the audience thinks you've just climbed out of Grenfell.
I live in London.
Right, Jamie. Who won that one? Sean or Gabe?
It's a close call. It's such a close call.
It's a given for me because one was just a masterstroke of writing, especially for the veterans community. The so bad at being a soldier, you were more effective for the IRA and the British Army.
In the
I'm
British
sorry.
Army. You got to give it to Sean on that one then.
I'm sorry, and I'm saying Sean has won that one. The guy that hasn't gigged yet has won the roast battle.
It looks like I'm picking him off, but
No, there was some serious bowing coming there from Big Gabe. So we've ended up talking about what is punching up, punching down. That was our first ever roast battle. So next week, I believe it would only be right if it's myself and Jamie roasting each other. We'll close off with that. So that means Sean and Gabe, you will be judging us. As with every episode.
judge you anyway.
Judge you anyway, yeah.
As with any episode, please just have a look at what stand-up comedy can do for you. If not, just fucking listen to us to have a damn good laugh. We'll finish off as we always do with our social media links and outro. So just enjoy yourselves, be funny, and until next time. If you want to see what we're actually like on stage, please have a look at our YouTube channel. Search for Project Comedy, Veterans Doing Stand-Up, and look for our black and white logo that's exactly the same as the one we use for this podcast. You can also now follow us on Twitter. We can be found at Proj Comedy. That's at PROJ Comedy. And me, Jay Saunders, I can be found on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter if you look for Comic J Saunders. That's all one word with the letter J in the middle. Comic J Saunders. Thanks again to everyone that's taken part in this episode. Until next time. Thanks for listening to the Project Comedy Podcast. Please support our veterans as they continue their comedy journeys. To find out more, including gigs our veterans are doing, please search for the Project Comedy group on Facebook, where you'll also find links to Project Recce, the veterans charity that makes Project Comedy possible.